You're listening to Mr. Liverpool himself, Frank Carlyle, exclusively on Mersey Radio.
Good evening, everybody. It's me, Frank Carlyle, from Mersey Radio, and in the studio I have the lovely, sultry, wonderful Paul Kappa. Hello, Paul. How are you?
Hiya, Frank. Sounds like one of your poems, huh?
Sounds like one of them. Thanks very much. But anyway, so how are you anyway? So, how did the weekend go? And
very good. I had a quite quiet weekend. It's been the last week of the summer holidays, so I spent most of the time with my boy, Curtis, running around and getting him out to see sights and stuff, and mostly taking him to Liverpool, I think, because no greater city is there in the world.
But isn't it funny, young Curtis, because I took these people out one day, and Curtis came along, and he was so enthralled, wasn't he? You know, of the history and everything else. So is he still like that today?
Oh, very much so. He's very on the ball, and he's always saying funny things. Like I was talking to him about a song or an album title, and he was saying he was trying to phrase it like he said, "Why don't we call it A Matter of Life and Death?" And I said, "Oh, it's a famous film that with David Niven in it." And he said, "Well, call it The Life and Death of Matter."
Oh, boys.
And I thought that was a great title. He's clever. He's a clever boy.
No, it's wonderful to even think that, because I'm looking across the table here, and there's a wonderful face, and it's the lovely, and I mean it, the lovely Laura Gilchrist. Hey, Laura.
All right, Frank, you're okay?
Yeah, I'm good. And you've been busy over the weekend doing all kinds of drumming and things, yeah.
All the drumming, aye.
All the drumming, aye. So did you have a few beers with it? That because drummers drink beers, don't they?
Well, I've got
not this one. She drinks Jack Daniels.
Oh,
yeah.
Jack
Daniels. Guinness.
Guinness.
I have to whisper the black because it's frowned upon in some pubs.
Yeah,
Guinness.
It's strange, isn't it? Isn't that mad?
Some people don't like it.
Guinness and black. That means you put black currant in Guinness. You ruin a perfectly good pint of Guinness.
But
you think it's a cocktail, don't you?
Yeah.
Some people used to think it was a girl's
Can I introduce you first? It's marvellous, isn't it, the way they jump in? Because there would have been, someone would have been sitting out there listening and going, who's this fella here? That doesn't sound like Paul or Laura. Anyway, it's good evening to my friends and everyone else's friends, the Cambridge man himself, Ed Gilchrist.
I'll never live that down, will I? Hi, Frank. Nice to be here. Can I interrupt now?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Can I just interrupt you, Ed, and say...
I might be offended if you do.
I think you must come under the subcategory of university challenged.
Yeah, I'll tell you that the word university is fantastic, and a few years ago, when my boy was much younger, I think he must have been about 10 or 11, and his name's Mark, and he wasn't very well read, our Mark. He was just really quite intuitive about the meaning of the world, and he wrote something down on a bit of paper. He was always writing stuff that was mind-blowing. And this particular time, he drew a picture of a school or something. And under it he wrote, Universe City. And I thought, that's a clever play on words, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a bit like your Curtis coming up with the end of matter with it. Yeah.
We should get them together and write a book.
They could. Universe City.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's so obvious, and
well, it's like that reminds me.
It's like Liverpool.
Well, yeah, of
the
course.
Universe City.
Well, the world's in one city as well. But when you just said that, I immediately thought of Samuel Taylor Coleridge, because he was off his head with opium, and he decided to write a poem called Kubla Khan, and this city is in the sky. So you could imagine him. And that was a knock-on effect. That reminded me of John Keats, because John Keats was just...
I know him, he plays at the Cavern.
Well, John Keats.
I thought of him as well.
Not that one.
That's what you call him.
See what I mean, Jason? You know the way they just put in and, help me when I'm on a flow, and this is it. Which is it's a disgrace, actually. But anyway, what I done was... what it meant was John Keats, and he was off his cake as well when he learned the death of his brother, 21 years of age, and he was with a mate of his in his house, and he went out into the garden, but they were drinking the wine, the French wine, bottles of it obviously, and he went out and he sat in his garden and he looked at this nightingale, and his mind went into the nightingale, and the nightingale just flew off, and he was actually looking down on the earth, you know, and looking at all these wonderful things and hedgerows and people, and it's that sort of literature, shall we say?
Metaphysical, isn't it, Frank?
Well, is it? Yeah, you know, but is it metaphysical with the likes of Coleridge or John Keats? Because their minds did go into something, you know, whether it was metaphysical, I don't know. But, you know, it just shows you what a fantastic brain universe, as you said.
Can I interrupt? That's a subject for another show, actually. The thing about how these minds go into what you're calling the metaphysical. It's some would argue that it was the substances that they imbibed or they took, and like DMT, dare I use that expression, that freed up the inner spiritual mind. So that's definitely another show.
Absinthe makes the heart grow fonder.
Absinthe, yeah.
That was the French thing. That was proper gear to get crazy on, wasn't it? Toulouse-Lautrec days. But you're thinking about Coleridge and what wonderful poems he wrote. You know, the Pleasure Dome and the Kubla Khan and the Rime of the Ancient Mariner.
Unbelievable.
And then compare him to that Wordsworth who wrote "I Wandered Lonely as a Cloud."
No, Wordsworth was great.
Terrible.
Because he came out with one of the great quotes. No, it was his mate, wasn't it? And when you look at the likes of Wordsworth wrote one of the greatest poems, and I want you to read it now, right? And you, Ed, not Laura, because she's lovely, and read a poem called Michael.
Thank God.
What?
Not daffodils.
Yeah, no, I don't want to hear about daffodils. No. I can't stand daffodils.
Well, read Michael and it'll open your eyes.
Okay.
It'll open your eyes, because Wordsworth is a great writer. Now, don't forget, we came from the metaphysical poetry right through, and I can't understand metaphysical poetry. I can't understand John Donne and these other wonderful people. I just can't understand their writings. Thing is, when Wordsworth came along, and William Blake, fantastic, I loved them. Keats, a lot of them. Browning, loved them. He said, "I'm writing in a language that man can understand." That's what Wordsworth said. So, you know, you've got these wonderful things. Anyway, so enough about that. I'm sorry about all this literature and everything else. So, I was going to ask you that.
It is historical, though, Frank. You're allowed to talk about historical literature because it's a history show. You've done good.
Yeah, okay, but, you know, if you look at literature, if you look at the world today, right, there's Nelson, for example, under fire because he said, "I'm defending the nation's assets," right? So, do we pull down his statue?
I don't know, Frank. I'm getting really concerned about the whole business about the world being obsessed about statues. These are public works of art, but mostly dead people.
Yeah.
I've been joking about it all week with Ed, saying, you know, how I'm offended by this, that, and everything. Everyone's offended by everything now. And
well, you're gonna get some loony somewhere saying that half of Liverpool should get pulled down. You know, they're going to imagine that it was all built on slave money, which of course is another story from Frank.
Yeah.
But you know, on the basis of that, let's pull it all down. Let's destroy everything that we've created for the current generation.
Take that point exactly, Ed, and say that all those statues that everybody says are slaves, which Frank will tell you all about, let's take them down because I'm offended, and it turns out they're not slaves at all.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, this is it, you see, because do we pull buildings down? Let's pull the town hall down. You know, that was built during the height of the slave trade, 1754. Sir John Wood of Bath. You know, a great architect, you know, a super architect at the time. He built the Crescent in Bath. Everybody knows about the Crescent in Bath because it's so iconic. He came to Liverpool and did this wonderful building. Do we pull that down? Because that was built in 1754 at the height of the slave trade. So where does it stop?
Well, somebody will say the Superland banana was put up during the reign of Tony Blair and should therefore be... I mean, where'd you stop?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Where'd you stop?
Oh, right. So what we've got, I've just had a message from Vanessa. She's a very, very good friend and a lovely, lovely person. And she said, "Don't you be starting on the slave trade, Frank, because you'll never stop." And you'll get the lads and Laura to say, put chipping in as well. So thank you so much, Ness. I'll be speaking to you very soon. Anyway, keep listening in because we've got great music and everything else. And where we're going over to now, are we going to a song or Pish? We've got Pish Marley all the way from Canada. Have you fellas heard of Pish Marley?
I haven't, no.
Have you heard?
Well, I have now.
I've looked at his stuff on the web, and so I know a little bit about him now.
Well, I know a certain person who lives not far from it. Well, 2.5 hours drive, and I mentioned Pish to her, and she said, and she looks everyone up, and she looked him up. She said, "He's great, him. His music and everything else," which is great. You know what I mean, Laura? So it's nice, isn't it, to for someone to look someone up who lives on her doorstep, by the way, more or less. So I'm delighted with that. Anyway, we're going straight over to Pish. Good evening, Pish, and good afternoon, as they say over there in Canada.
Good afternoon and good evening from Pervy Studios. How you doing, lads?
Well, I'm fine, Pervy Studios, which is, it's unique. I've got Paul Kappa here and Laura Gilchrist. Laura's the drummer in the amazing Kappa band, and Paul is obviously the lead singer, guitarist, and very... well, I'll let him talk. Anyway, what do you think, Pish? What do you think of today's climate and Mr. Trump and North Korea and everything else going on? Well, how's it affecting the Maple Leaf country?
Well, not really. It's raining. It's raining a lot. I don't know. North Korea thing's a bit of a pain, isn't it, for everybody? It's like the flea on the back of the dog. You can't scratch in it. I don't know what they're going to do with Kim Jong-un, whatever his name is, but they better do something soon because he's being a naughty boy, isn't he?
Well, this is it, you see. This is it, unfortunately. People are afraid, we'll put it that way. And it's all the rhetoric coming out. And I don't think it's hot air, to be honest. And I think China should be doing more about anything. But my take on that, and I'll tell you for why. North Korea is on the border of China. Now, if they got rid of their leader, North Korea, and all of a sudden North Korea became one unified country, America, that'll be right down America's played right into the hands, because they'll just go straight onto the border of China. That's the way I look at it.
That's true. Yeah.
I don't want to take Pish's time away, but very quickly, I don't know whether it's well known around the world that North Korea has immense natural resources, that are currently of extreme value to the rest of the world.
That's why they've made the bomb. That's, you've got the ore, you've got the minerals there, and they're not getting us off China, they're not getting us off Russia, where are they getting it? They're getting it from their own. It's as simple as that. Well, anyway, Pish, what have you been up to lately? Have you been doing any gigs? Have you been making any more new albums? Funk and Time, if you say that quickly. So, what's been going on very recently with you?
Oh, basically, I mean, I'm still playing. I played there a couple of weeks ago in a local drinkery. We had a laugh doing that. I'm just promoting the album right now. I'm taking time out away from the studio, as you know. I'm just getting this thing rolling, it's about funk in time up and running. So if anybody wants to say it, they can, feel free. I'll do it quickly if you want to. Can I just say hello to Mo, by the way? She's listening.
Yeah, Mo, she's always listening. And I suppose she said, "Would you mention me there, Pish, please?"
She was nice to me, actually, thank God. But there's also a couple of people. Dave is a mate of mine in England. He's listening. Anastasia and Grigor over in Russia by Gorky Park are listening.
You're joking.
So yeah, it's a band out of Russia. They're doing a thing called Pish Fest on the 28th of this month, and I can't get there, but it's like a lot of rock bands doing it.
Really? So it's like a big festival there in Gorky Park, did you say, or do they live by Gorky Park?
Yeah. Well, they live in Moscow, but yeah, by Gorky
nice.
Park there. Apparently, it's where they're going at.
That's
So it should be a hoop.
Fantastic. That's absolutely wonderful. Yeah. So it's good evening to Grigor and who else?
Anastasia.
Anastasia. Well, now they reckon that Anastasia. This is historical, by the way. One of the Tsar's daughters was actually still alive, and she escaped. 1917, after the royal family were unfortunately assassinated. That's the way I put it. Murdered, but assassinated in a woods, which is absolutely diabolical to end anybody's life, no matter who they are. Anyway, they reckon Anastasia actually escaped, and she came to Europe or America. Went to America. I don't know. She might be living by you, to be honest, Pish, there and. Near Ontario, as they say.
Well, they do talk funny over here, so I don't know whether they've found it yet. So.
Do you know a place called Mississauga?
Mississauga, yeah. It's about 2 hours south of me.
Well, there you go. Well, I know
it's not far from Toronto.
Sorry?
It's not far from Toronto, like literally 10 minutes from Toronto.
Well, there you go, because I know an actual person. I think Ed wants to come in here.
I've just got to say that the Pish is fantastic, because when he first introduced himself, he was Canadian. He's not now.
No,
he's already a Scouser.
Yeah, he's a Scouser.
Within 2 minutes of talking to us.
So the thing is, with the likes of Pish, we do a thing called Billy No Mates. And it's fantastic, and it's about this little kid, he's got no mates and whatever, and he does this like little comedy sketch, and we play it, don't we, Jason? Yeah. Yep. Yeah, Jason said a word, he said yep, and we play this, and Pish does all the voiceovers and everything. You're all right there, then. What are you doing right there? And you come over.
It's about fucking time.
There you go.
That's it. There you go. And so this is our Pish. Lovable man. So listen, what's your next big gig coming up? Any idea?
Well, I'm planning a few things right now. Again, I'm just pushing the album right now. It's up on iTunes, and a few things. I'm trying to put a website together to get some stuff going on the net. Because right now, as you know, I live in the middle of nowhere with the rattlesnakes and stuff, and it's kind of like it's hard to push music where I live, because they're all jug blowers and washboard plays, you know what I mean?
Well, listen, lads, you've got to listen to this. Tell us, Pish, about that experience you had when you were, you were actually looking for something, and there you seen a rattlesnake. Can you just go through it for people, listeners who don't know anything about it?
Yeah, we've got a thing called the Mississauga rattlesnake. You can't kill them here in Ontario. It's like $10,000 if you kill them, because they catch them and they milk them for the venom, and that's what they make the anti-venom out of. So you can't do nothing to them, right? And last Monday I was working up at the resort at Pleasant Cove Resort, which I'm based out of. Bruce, my boss, said, "Can you go and get some rocks for us, because we have all these beautiful glacier rocks that we used to do the driveways with." And they're big, they're like bowling balls and stuff like that. I said, yes, I went up to the pit, and I was picking up some rocks, the way you do, and I happened to pick one rock up, and right underneath it was about a 4-foot rattlesnake looking at me, and I turned into Usain Bolt. I was gone, like, see you later, mate. Thank God it was sleeping, because, again, the weather's changing now, so it's getting a bit cooler, so they're a bit more dormant. But yeah, I literally picked the rock up and I was looking right at it, and it was looking right at me, and me bottle went.
I'll tell you what, anything like that, whether it's venomous or anything, snakes, horrible thing. Go on.
I was just sort of amused about the idea that you were confronted with a rattlesnake and thought, oh no, I mustn't kill it because they get the antidote from it. So if I kill it, it's like a vicious circle, isn't it?
If I leave it, it'll bite me, but at least they get the venom from it. That's so right, the antidote.
Yeah, for someone else, because if that bites you, you've gone. That's the end of it.
So you're weighing up your $10,000. Now let it bite me. It's all right. That'll be all right.
Difficult decisions. Run.
Well, here you go. Aces or spades. It's like one of them, isn't it? So.
Yeah.
Well, it is, and when you see these particular things, like you watch films, Canadian films, and it's always snowy. Snowy. Anyway, I watch CBS reality, and there's a thing called it's about certain mazes in the snow, and it's all Canada. They try to cover the tracks and through the snow, but it's not like that. It could lead you right to the Killers, for example. It could lead you right to the Killers because of the snow. But snow melts.
That's true.
Snow melts as well.
Does it?
Go on. Take no notice of it. He's being flippant.
That's all right.
Jason. No, go ahead. Go ahead. So all I was going to say was, before I was very rudely interrupted by this Cambridge fella, was that it's not only rattlesnakes there, though, is it? There's coyotes, there's wolves, there's grizzlies, there's...
Yeah, we have a variation of things that will eat you, yeah.
Pish, what's the biggest spider you've got there?
I don't look that close because I'm normally running.
Yeah, just a black sheep.
I don't really know. We have a variety of different spiders and stuff over here. Again, I'm not that knowledgeable about them. I just know the biggest one I've seen is about the size of my hand.
Ooh, yeah.
Pish, it sounds like Canada's a good place to keep fit in.
Yeah.
You've got to keep on your toes, mate. Otherwise, you become somebody's lunch.
Because I remember you putting on social network, he said, and he's filming outside. They call it the backyard, we call it the garden. And there's bears, in the bins and everything else. What's he going out, to mow the lawn? And what would you do?
Did they get paid for their part in the play?
What's that?
Did the birds get paid? For doing a part in their play that they're doing in the garden?
Well,
they like extras?
Well, you've seen that film, The Revenant. That was a stunt bear. You had a bear to do another bear to do the bear stunts, and a reserve stunt bear. It was great.
They're highly paid.
I don't know where this conversation's taken us.
It's very educational.
It is very educational, especially about Maple Leaf Country. Why is it called, why is the emblem a maple leaf? Is it because of maples? Why couldn't they have the grizzly bear, Why couldn't they have that? Or squirrels or something?
It's too hard to draw.
I don't actually know. I know this last flag was designed by a guy from Quebec somewhere. I know that. I'm guessing because there's so many maple trees around in Canada, and they also make maple syrup out of the sap out of the trees and all kind of thing. I'm guessing that's what it's about. I'm not quite sure, I'll be honest with you.
Well, that's a cool answer, because you can easily guess, couldn't you, why, and especially about maple syrup. And there's
I planted a maple tree in my mum's garden in 1997. It's 20 years ago, because I planned to put it there so I could grow it dead big and make a guitar out of it. And I looked at it the other day and thought, there's just not enough wood on it yet. I think I'll be long gone before that's ready.
I planted a maple tree in our garden 20 years ago. It's been dead for 19.
Did you notice, Pish, down by the pier head there, we've got the Canadian Walk. What's it called? Canadian Avenue, is it? Canada Avenue?
Yeah.
Forget it.
I think
Right.
it is, yeah.
And it's right in front of the Liver building, the Cunard building, and the Port of Liverpool building. Anyway, what they've got is all, the flags, and they've got these things about ships and that, from Canada. Brilliant. And especially about Samuel Cunard, who came over, the age of 20 from Canada, by the way. and he built the Cunard line,
Yeah.
because what he actually said, Pish, which this will be for all the Canadians, he said, I'm going to conquer the seas like the Romans conquered land, and he did. And both Roman
Yeah, he
and, he actually conquered the seas. That's a fantastic quote by a young man, 20 years of age, from Canada. Now then, maple trees, they put them in because it was going to be the avenue full of maple trees. The Canadian, well, have you seen them lately?
I haven't been down there lately.
It's strange.
Well, this must mean I'm one of the most successful maple tree growers in England.
Well, look at that.
Sought after.
I'm going to be on Gardener's Question Time instead of this show next week.
You and Pish Marley, because Pish Marley, you can actually. Do you know what? I've got to say this, Pish. I really have to say this.
Go ahead.
I said I've got a friend over there who's a regular on the show and musician and everything else, and I said his name is Pish Marley, and she got back to me and said, "That's an unusual name, isn't it?" I said, "No, Marley is very common in
Dickensian,
yeah. I said even Dickens mentioned. She never said that. She got annoyed at me, to be honest. So it's only Liverpool humour, isn't it? So I hope you didn't mind that, Pish.
We got the Canada.
I want to talk about.
I say, Frank, we got the Canada Dock, haven't we, as well? It's just right face is still there with the Dominion pub.
That's right.
And the Canadian lager on the top of it, the statue with the dog.
Yeah.
That's where we play some gigs sometimes. The excellent Dock and Roll Cafe is just underneath there. It's brilliant.
Absolutely, and when you go into the Port of Liverpool building, which my guests have been in with me, Pish. What you actually see, you see big stained windows, and one of them is Canada. Canada, absolutely brilliant. New Zealand, Australia, and the rest going up the stairs. You've got all the old Commonwealth countries. But you start off at Liverpool, and when you go up the stairs, you've got to come back down the stairs. So you start off at Liverpool, and when you come back down, you end up at Liverpool. So that's telling. It was ingenious, simple but ingenious, because no matter what went out of Liverpool, always returned. And just like you, are you ever coming back over here again, to do anything, a holiday, see your family or what? That's you, that Pish.
I missed it.
No, I'm just saying.
Sorry, mate.
Are you
I was having a beer.
No. What did you say?
I was having a beer. We've got a bit of a mixed up line today for some reason. I think the weather's kicking in around here.
Oh, right.
Yeah, we were planning on coming over later this year. Actually, we're contemplating November, believe it or not, because my work kind of ceases to exist when snow starts coming down, which is very soon. And so that's the only time I can really get away is like between November and all the good months, obviously, in April.
So you're definitely coming over then, either November or April.
Well, it'll be between. I'd say we can sell some albums.
Oh, okay. No, because once you get over here, obviously we'll meet up and I'll show you the big Canadian stained glass window. Have you ever heard of a fellow? Have you ever heard of a fellow by the name of? Have you ever heard of? I forget his name. It's gone. It's gone from me.
No.
Unfortunately, I know, and it's completely and utterly gone. This Frank, the photographic memory, it's completely and utterly gone.
Yeah, Frank's never heard of him either. Obviously,
I've never heard of him either.
He was dead interesting, though, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. Yeah. I was going to say no, I forget his name anyway. But I'll mention this fella instead. It took me by surprise that he actually came from Canada, and that's William Shatner, Captain Kirk. He was Canadian, wasn't he? He's Canadian. Whether he's
a fascinating fellow as well.
And he's still alive, which is more than you can say for some of his ex-colleagues.
Yes.
That's true. Or his wives.
Yeah.
That's obviously another story.
Taken by grizzlies.
They love swimming.
But the thing is, William Shatner, he became so iconic. and the show became iconic, and I still watch it today.
Yeah.
And when my producer Jason Pennington came to pick me up to bring me here, I was watching just about 3 minutes to go of the Star Trek series. Absolutely fascinating series, the original series, that is.
Brilliant, isn't it? Absolutely brilliant. Nothing like it.
Absolutely. When you look at it, what they brought out in 1967, going back to 1967, like a mobile phone, like Beam Me Up Scotty, and all these wonderful things. Now, I'm going to tell you before we, unfortunately, have to leave, Pish. Do you know that Beam Me Up Scotty thing? Do you know why they actually did that? They had to bring that in, and they didn't mean to. They ran out of money, right? So they didn't want to. It'll cost a lot of money, to put on this thing, this whatever, another spacecraft going down to the planet, so they could get off. Yeah. So they said, we can't afford to be doing this all the time through the air. We'll have to come up with another idea. So someone came up with the bright idea, said, well, okay, we're well into the future, we're in the 25th century or whenever it is. Why don't we just beam them down and beam them up? And that was why they did Beam Me Up Scotty.
And just to tell that one, James Doohan, the actor who played Montgomery Scott, was Canadian. Yeah. And he was actually a war hero. We actually led a platoon on D-Day, of all things. Yeah. Incredible man.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing.
And of course now one of his sons is playing
his part.
Playing Scotty in the remakes or the new versions of the old.
It's a fan film. It's free on YouTube. Anybody who's interested.
Oh, yeah. I've seen that. I've glanced over that. Yeah, I didn't realise that was him. Wow.
That's one of his two sons. Yeah.
That's absolutely brilliant. Pish, I'm sorry, we've got to call it a thing because we've got a girl by the name of Sasha Christie. She's not Russian, but she has a lovely Russian name, Sasha. And you can tell Grigory and Anastasia, all about Sasha. But she's a ufologist expert. And we were talking UFOs, because I know UFOs are quite frequent over Canada. Am I right, Pish?
You are definitely right. And I've got a story about that to tell you, but not right now. And I can verify it as well.
Go on. Really? Genuine?
Yes.
I wish I would have. Jason, you haven't been doing your own work, because I would have been going on about that.
Beam me up, Jason.
Beam me up, Jason. Oh, Pish, it's been absolutely stupendous. And we're going to play your record, by the way, called A Place Called Home.
Excellent, thank you.
From your new album. It's about funk in time.
Say it quick, Frank.
I won't say it quick. I get that in quickly. Funk in very quickly. Anyway, Pish, it's been absolutely wonderful, and thank you for coming on.
Listen, as always, I appreciate your help and your support. You guys rock. And I can't wait till next time we have a longer
No,
yap,
it'll be next month, actually. It'll be next month. Is that
cool.
okay with you?
Yeah, we'll set it up. Not a problem. We'll speak to Jace.
Okay. Now, the thing is as well, I want you to talk about that incident, what you were talking about, the UFOs. Is that okay?
Not a problem.
You can't, Frank. They're outside now. It hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, I wasn't even drinking, believe it or not. So there you go.
Okay. Listen, Pish, it's been absolutely wonderful. And speak to you soon. Thank you.
Bye.
All right. Take care. Take care, guys.
Thank you. And anyway, here it is. This is his song from his new album. It's about funk and time, and it's called A Place Called Home. Pish Marley.
The best in 60s and 70s music, plus a little bit of history. Tune into Frank Carlyle every Monday at 8 p.m. here, only on Mersey Radio.
Pish Marley, and from his new album, it's about funk in time. A Place Called Home. What did you think of that? You said
I like
that
it. Yeah.
You said that it was like mid-Atlantic sort of
C&W, that sort of thing. It sounds like Eagles-ish, I think.
Yeah. Go along
with
Eagles
that. Sort of inspiration in there somewhere, maybe.
What did you think as being a musician?
I was really well put together, nicely produced, and nice sounding, good harmonies. But I was expecting it to be kind of funky. I was expecting some kind of like
Yeah, I was expecting that too.
Was you expecting it, Laura?
I think the title sort of led us to think that we were,
Heavy rock and everything
about
else.
fucking time. We was thinking that would be.
Yeah.
But remember, the title of the song is a place called home, which is maybe a little bit softer than the.
Yeah, but if James Brown had done it, he would have just gone, place called home. Ow! Place called home. You can get round that, You don't have to do it softly.
Yeah.
Just got a message here from Mark Kinnish, and he said, "Hey Frank and all on the show tonight. I can't listen for the next 2 weeks as I'm on holiday. Now in Cornwall for the next week until the 12th of September. So hi to you all. However, I've just got a laptop and I'm listening to it. What kind of... I don't believe it,
There's no escape, is there?
No escaping. Absolutely no escaping. But anyway, it's great to know that people are actually, listening in. Maureen Gibbons, Mo, she likes to be called. She doesn't like to be called Maureen. Isn't that strange? Some people don't like to be called by the name.
Yeah.
See,
I
I don't
prefer
like
the
to...
shortened versions of the...
Well, that's it. My name's George Clooney, but I'd rather...
You don't like to be called that.
No,
it reminds me of that.
Low profile.
Reminds me of that Louis Jordan song, Five Guys Named Mo. There's another 5 guys who just wants to be called Mo.
Well,
yeah,
I don't know.
Just a Mo.
Just a Mo. But anyway, Andy Gamble's just texted in, and he said, "Yo, Frank, boys and Laura."
Oh.
Boys and Laura, great show as usual. A massive hello to Pish. I'll see you next Monday. So isn't that nice, Andy Gamble? And he's on next week with a lad named Jamie Summers. And what we'll be doing next week is, don't know, what are we doing next week, Jason? Have we got anything exciting on? I don't know.
You'll have Dr. Mo listening.
Oh yeah. Well, to be honest, Sasha Christie, we're trying to, locate Sasha because Sasha was going to talk about UFOs. Now, can I? I'm going to go straight to Ed.
I was just going to say, I hope she hasn't been abducted or anything daft like that.
Okay. What's your take on UFOs?
I have this little hypothesis about UFOs, and it's time-based.
Go on.
I think that UFOs are actually basically us in the future. And, I got this idea when some years ago we were talking a lot about the way accidents happen. Most of them happen near the home, don't they? So, 80% of all accidents happen within a few miles of home. That kind of makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? So, if you think about time travel, let's just imagine sometime in the future of the human race, we create time travel. Then most of the journeys that would be made going forward and back in time would be close to the time that this was kind of created. So if we see more and more UFOs, let's call them that, if we see more and more of those, then we must be getting closer to the time that we discover we get the ability to travel in time.
But what about H.G. Wells?
I think...
because he foreseen bombings and everything else. He foreseen wars, world wars, with the likes of planes and bombings and everything else, and also a time machine. Yeah,
and wasn't there some other story about disappearances and reappearances of people?
Yes.
And so I think he was or was connected to forerunners of this, or people who actually visited him from the future.
Okay.
So I'm a great believer in it, but I don't necessarily believe it's aliens.
Okay. What's your take on it, Paul?
Well, I just wanted to take Ed up on one of his things that he said that it's a statistic that 96.7% of all accidents that happen in the home. And that's true, Ed. That's the first thing I want to
I'm never going home again.
Secondly, it's been reported in the Daily Mail that there's a great anomaly over Antarctica, which that the UFO theorists are claiming is a Nazi UFO site. So that's historic. So there's presumably sometime before 1945 the Nazis had a
Well, they did.
a
They
site
actually went up there.
in Antarctica for UFOs. That's in the Daily Mail.
Yeah.
Why is that in the Daily Mail?
I believe everything from the Daily Mail.
Yeah, but the
See,
thing
anything to
is,
do
no,
with Nazis.
historically, they did go up there. They did go up there because your best plan of attack, as they said, is from that way, down, right down. You've got the whole world to look at. And if you circumnavigate the North Pole, you're looking down at everyone, and that was their plan, by the way. Anyway, that's by the by.
Oh, it's not by the by, it's in the Daily Mail. It's just...
There you go, with the Daily Mail. What about you, Laura? What's your take on UFOs?
Well, I'm not sure. I think if I saw one, I'd believe in the whole thing, but I'd have to actually see.
Okay.
But I heard a little interview someone did with like a famous scientist, physicist guy, and he was talking about UFOs, and he just mentioned that, what does it stand for? The U is unidentified. So how can you say that it's a spaceship when it's unidentified is the clue? How can you say, oh, well, that up there must be a spaceship? I've never seen it before. Well,
that's a very good point, because someone asked me, can I define UFOs? I said, yeah, I can define UFOs. I said, they're only unidentified flying objects. Then that unidentified is that you've seen nothing like them other than planes or whatever. Now, don't forget, the likes of UFOs, if you go to the Dordogne district, where I was, and go into these caves, you will actually see UFOs painted on the walls. You'll actually see you see a UFO on the Renaissance paintings. You'll actually see UFOs, they're very famous. You'll also see them. There's a thing in Peru, and it's a totem pole, and they still can't find the origins of this metal. Out of 68,000 bits of, like, whatever they are, metal, that they can identify here on Earth. This one, they can't identify. Right? Now, you're saying about, look, I've actually seen one.
Yeah.
I've actually seen one. And it was solid. I'm useless at estimating size or distance, right? I am useless. Anyway, it was estimated by various people at about 350 foot in diameter and less than a mile away. And we weren't looking up at it, we were actually looking down at it. How's that then? Solid thing. And it was gone vertically. It was gone when it just went up vertically within 2 seconds into the blue yonder. It was solid. It wasn't a light. It wasn't a light or anything like that. It was 350 foot in diameter. It was a greyish colour. And when it shot up in the air, it was gone. It vanished within 2 seconds. The phenomenal speed. And there's no one on Earth that would have stood that sort of pressure. Right? But you've all gone quiet.
So
we're all listening to you,
I'm
Frank.
trying to think about the word unidentified again, because
you can't define it.
Well, you identified it, didn't you?
Well,
So
I identified it as a solid mass.
You identified it as a flying object.
Yeah.
So that was an identified flying object.
Yeah. But what
it was unidentified in terms of there was no known origin of it.
Yeah.
So I think the unidentified bit is more about its origin.
Yeah.
The source of it, as opposed to...
Yeah, but it's become a buzz thing, hasn't it?
It
UFO.
has, yeah. So, UFO kind of flows off the tongue.
God, it's all getting a bit pedantic, isn't it?
I'm a pedantic person in some places,
yeah.
Someone's got to be pedantic.
See, people get debunked. The unfortunate thing is, when you talk about UFOs, I don't care what anyone says to me, I really don't. But when you get the likes of astronauts and pilots, and even people out at sea, and I'm talking astronauts here, I'm talking about pilots here, I'm talking about other people who, from the professional business, by the way, I'm talking about ordinary people as well. I'm talking about bobbies on the beat, whatever. And a bobby in Lancashire or somewhere, he was just going home. And he said, I was fed up. They were doing a murder inquiry, and they had to have this particular place open all hours of the morning from, I think, his shift was 10 o'clock to 6 o'clock in the morning, or 8 o'clock in the morning, whatever it was. And when he went to work, he just went there, he went in, he was just sitting down, and then all of a sudden, around 4 o'clock in the morning, a constable runs in, and he says, "You better come with me." And he thought it was either another body found or something, because the lad, he said, was white. And he rushed out, he jumped into the car, and as they went up in the car through these little ledge roads, and they come to an incline, and he gets out, and he said, "What's that?" He said, "What's that?" And it was a UFO, and it was just stationary. And he said it was less than 50 foot off the ground, and it was huge. He said, so we looked at it, we jumped back in the car, and it started to move very, very slowly. No sound. And I said to him, I said, was it, no sound? I said, are you sure it was a solid mass? He said, oh yeah, it was a solid mass. He said, because there's had some sort of portholes in it. He said it was definitely not a plane. Definitely not that. It was a different shape from what you could imagine. It was a different shape. He said then all of a sudden, he said it just, as we were following it for about 5 miles, he said then it just slowly, and it just went zoom. Not straight up, but the way your plane takes off, that's how we described it, and it goes further and further out. He said, but this went just zoom right up into the night sky.
But is there anything that would say that?
And that's a policeman, so that, people are not, they can't all be debunked. That's what I'm saying.
I think, is there any argument that would say that it couldn't be man-made objects from the future at a time when they, let's say for the sake of argument, these are just drones,
yes,
but they've given them the technology to flit around in time as well as space, and so these are just future drones moving around in time, and that's what we say.
It's very important in Star Trek. It says that you mustn't go back in time and start
interfere,
because you're going to cause all kinds of trouble, causing paradox things in the future that, This is that episode with Joan Collins. He had to let her get run over, and
he did.
William Shatner, just for that very reason. Spock had to stand there holding him back from saving Joan.
Yeah.
Joni Collins.
Because you can't come back from the future and start messing with stuff. It's important that.
But why can't you?
Well, I don't know, because it says so in Star Trek. It's something to do with the Prime Directive, I think.
Well, as Bones once said to Spock, are you out of your Vulcan mind? Because over something. And it's just like, it's about funk and time, isn't it? Are you out of your Vulcan mind?
He keeps looking at you when he says that, Laura.
Hang on a minute, Laura. I wasn't looking at you. I was looking at you.
It's mainly Paul, because he can't look sideways so easily, and
you never notice she never shows her ears on stage.
I've noticed that, yeah.
Strange stuff.
There's no ears on show in here today, though, are there?
Well, listen, getting back to what we were talking about, ears and Spock and everything else. So, what's your take on UFOs, Ed?
Well, as I said before, I think they could easily be man-made objects from the future.
From what I've said, we've only got a couple of minutes now. From what I've said, what do you think of getting debunked all these particular people?
I think there's a lot of stuff worth being debunked. I think there's a lot of bunkum on these things.
Okay.
As there is with anything. But I think there's too much evidence which, to me, seems delivered by plausible individuals who would have nothing to gain. by making it up.
So you come back to what Laura says. What would be very interesting is if lots more of us had the experience where we'd all seen these things. Seeing is believing is what Laura's saying.
It kind of is, yeah.
But it makes me think that predominantly what we're talking about when we say UFOs, we're really sort of hinting heavily that it's aliens. That's what we mean. It's alien life, intelligent alien life.
But I was going to finish with that by saying I think the story of aliens is one that is it's another tool that the establishment uses to control and frighten us. And so the idea that there's aliens trying to do something, surreptitiously around the world.
War of the Worlds scenario
type thing. And there's been some decent TV series which have covered that sort of subject of aliens that are man-made. They're among us already, and it's fear-mongering is a big part of the UFO story.
But it wouldn't explain people physically seeing these things, unless you're saying that governments are sponsoring a sort of like
I think
an illusion.
But Paul, the unseen thing is probably more frightening.
Well, why would the likes of astronauts, the likes of Buzz Aldrin, for example, he said there's a bogey, the same bogey is following us, what shall we do? And that was leaked out. And he was asked, did you actually say that, or was it, he said, no, I did say it. And there was something following us, he said, and it wasn't. He said.
But the thing is, do I actually believe Buzz Aldrin at anything he says?
Why? Because you're very sceptical that they actually landed on the moon, aren't you?
I'm not sceptical. I think I just have an open mind about it because there's arguments that look pretty good on both sides, and I think when there is a good argument against something that everyone believes, I've got an open mind on that, and so it'd be quite easy to persuade the likes of Buzz.
I think they did because they've got the moon rocks now. People say. And they've been carefully studying these and taking them apart. And I know what people say. Well, they're just taking off the nearest volcano, and they say that. But they're doing some very good, interesting scientific data, and they're finding things out about the moon with those rocks.
Yeah, but you would make sure you did find out things about the moon if you were making it up, wouldn't you?
Well, what about that thing that happens in Siberia, Russia, when they're trying to debunk it by saying that it was a meteor that hit it, but there's no hole.
You mean the big hole?
No, there's no hole there. And this is what the problem is. But nothing's grown there. Nothing has grown there since 1902 when this incident happened. And the trees that are down as though not an atom bomb, but a hydrogen bomb, as if just spread out. And there's no hole there, that's debunking the theory of this meteor, because there's witnesses actually said at the time that they seen these things in the sky sending out beams to each other, and one of them actually hit the ground, and that's how this particular incident happened. And that's 1902, by the way.
Probably Kim Jong-un's great-grandfather probably was there testing something in the area.
Time travellers, Paul.
Time travellers. You can't get a decent thing out, can you? When it's serious. Well,
time travellers is serious.
So we're going over now to Primal Refugees by Kappa and Badswell. And this is 9 o'clock. We've got two songs. Shooting Stars by Mello. And Mello is an LA-based duo and is in collaboration of the British guitarist Chaz Castell and American singer Jessica Mello. This is the first single from the new EP, which is due out in the autumn and produced by Grammy winner Robert Cottarelli, who has worked with the likes of Sting, R.E.M. and Joss Stone. And what do you think of the death, before we go over, what do you think of the death of, who died recently, only the other day?
Walter.
Yeah, it's a shame, isn't it?
The man who plays that fantastic guitar on all that old Steely Dan stuff.
Yeah, they were such great records.
Fantastic records. You know what I like most about him? He said, he was asked by some people, do you play like a mix of jazz and rock? And he said, nah, we just play rock with a bit of a swing. And I think he's spot on.
Yeah. It's a shame, isn't it? You know, that these great people who do contribute something in the world, you know, the likes of music, and they have to go, and it's just terrible. You know, David Bowie.
Yeah, I was just thinking of him.
Lemmy.
I've got to think about that. We go back to the Walter thing. You know, a lot of people have never heard of him because he was always Donald Fagen.
Yeah.
He was always the singer who got all the publicity because that voice was so strong, wasn't it? But it was really, I think, Steely Dan wouldn't have been Steely Dan without the two of them. They were equally important to that band.
Yeah, absolutely. But anyway, we're going over, and it's Primal Refugees by Paul Kappa and Baz Wolf. Absolutely brilliant Baz Wolf, and so was obviously Kappa himself. And Shooting Stars by Mello.
The best in 60s and 70s music, plus a little bit of history. Tune into Frank Carlyle every Monday at 8 p.m. here, only on Mersey Radio.
Oh, we're on, and I'm eating, I'm sorry. I'm eating my little cake that Paul Kappa brought. He brought these lovely little cakes, and we're having a nice cup of tea, and they're Italian pastries, and they're absolutely lovely. And thank you, Paul, for bringing them.
Fiorentines.
Fiorentines, absolutely wonderful. Anyway.
It's a taste of Little Italy of Scotty Road, that.
Little Italy, of Scotty Road.
Yeah.
And that's where my little mother went when she came over from Italy. With my grandparents, my great-grandparents, all my cousins and aunties and everything else. How about that?
It seemed like everybody's family seemed to live there. You know,
Did,
if you go back a little bit, my family was there, everybody was there.
Everybody, you know, we all grew up. Go ahead, Ed.
My grandmother lived next door to a lot of Italians in Little Italy.
Oh, right.
She actually worked in the house with them.
Go away.
Yeah, and it was her job to support the family, massive families of kids in those days.
Yeah.
And so she worked. She actually, I think one of her relatives married one of the Italians.
That's great.
And they created their own little Scouse Italian.
Well, this is it. You see,
generation.
Well, this is it. And there was a fellow by the name of Jerry Chiappi, and Jerry Chiappi, he actually invented. Got to tell you this. We called him Jerry Chiap. You know, go down to Chiap's for the chips, or, you know, for your dinner or your tea or whatever, because we use a chippy fella. And goes down to Chiap's, but his proper pronunciation is Chiappi. And do you know what he invented? Absolutely amazing, this. You've had it, Ed, you've had it, Laura, and so is this fella, Paul Kappa, with his guitar. He's had it as well, and Jason's had it. Everybody's had this. And what it was, kids used to go in, and adults, you know, for ice cream. And he used to put them on little porcelain plates, but what happened was that the kids used to drop them, or even adults, you know, just smash them or chip them or whatever, and it was costing them a fortune, you know, to replace them. So he went up to the local priest and he said to him, listen, you know, the communion. He said, would I be able to go to the place where it makes the communion? And he went, yeah, sure. So we went up, and and he said to this fella, listen, can you do me so? And he went, yeah, okay. And it's just like Guinness, by the way, because Guinness is a burnt beer. Did you know that? They burnt the beer, right? And that's how Guinness was formed. So we went to this fella who made the communion, you know, for all the churches around. But he left it in too long. And when it came out, it was more solid and brown. And what it was the wafer. So we invented the wafer, a fella from Scotty Road who was part of Little Italy. How about that?
I love stories of accidental inventions that have survived the time.
Yeah.
You know, like the glue on your sticky pad. You know, was it 3M some employee of 3M discovered that by accident.
Yeah.
You know, finding this glue that didn't actually stick permanently, and that's what they wanted. They didn't. When he was working with the glue, they were looking for a proper glue, but by accident he mixed it wrong or something, and then he found that this is going to be great. This is like the paper sticks to it, but you can turn it off dead easy.
I love the story that the Italian revolutionary Garibaldi sat on an Eccles cake and created the Garibaldi biscuit.
Yeah,
it's great, that. I mean, it's an enduring myth. It's got to be true.
But he wasn't from Liverpool, unfortunately.
He must have been on a state visit to Bolton or something.
Yeah, somewhere down in Manchester.
But it's like the sandwich, isn't it? Lord Sandwich, when he went out, he said, "Oh, go and get me something to eat." And he went, "Yeah, and get me a bit of bread." And he got this meat and he put it in between two pieces
and they all shocked.
Yeah, everyone was shocked.
What's he doing?
Absolutely. And then he gave the order to charge. Hence,
hence, he's 2 slices short of a sandwich.
Yes. Never mind the charge of the Light Brigade. It was the sandwich that was more important.
Sandwiches to the left of them, sandwiches to the right of them. Oh, God.
You mess in the middle.
Take control here, Frank.
I know, and it's terrible because... Did you know how we actually had written that particular poem, Tennyson? Do you know how he written it?
Well,
honestly,
presumably he wasn't there.
No, he wasn't there. Shall I tell you how he got to write it? And you can imagine this. Loads of incidents like that have gone and disappeared because no one can recall them. Anyway, what had happened? He was reading something, a little column in the Tundra, which is the Times today, and he read this and he went, "This is wrong," because it was a mistake. He sent 600 into the Valley of Death.
Yeah.
And that's when he went like that, right, I'm going to immortalise this, which he did. So he immortalised the charge of the Light Brigade, and this should never be allowed to happen again. That's why he wrote it, Alfred Lord Tennyson. And it's just like what we were talking about before, when John Keats had actually written Ode to a Nightingale. He immortalised the death of his brother and also the nightingale.
But isn't it a pity that it does continue?
Yes.
That, the 600 then becomes the 600,000 at the psalm end. It just goes on and on, doesn't it?
Well, don't forget what Wilfred Owen said. We've lost the cream of our youths because 1 million of our lads died, and don't forget that the average age in the First World War was 17.
Yeah.
17
they were just
years
kids.
Of course, they were all kids.
It reminds me of Thackeray as well. Thackeray observed that he was talking about a skirmish that was in the European wars, saying that it was a small enough skirmish to not even register on the pages of history, but it was a big deal to everybody who was involved in it. Yeah. These things go on. Like the Charge of the Light Brigade might not have been immortalised. People might not have talked about it again.
No.
So it's that's the point. It becomes a bigger deal than it was, and then it becomes pointless. Like say the First World War, the millions of deaths, and that's that other thing, isn't it? A million deaths is a statistic.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it becomes, instead of it being a warning for the people of today and for the future, it becomes a work of art. So it's known as a work of art, not as a warning.
Yeah.
Not as a thing to say we're not going to do that again. It's just a work of art. The film about it was a work of art.
But I do think it's a work of art is a good thing to have. It could be a cartoon, it could be a joke. Things that entertain people often get through more than you go on social media and everybody just shouts at each other. Like your opinion, my opinion. We shout our opinions at each other, and very rarely it's going to change anybody's mind. But you often find that a song, a poem, a painting, or something will make people think about something far more than just the regular sort of shouting that goes on.
Well, all right. Just before we go over to David Johnson, there's a very famous quote. Now, do you think this quote is misinterpreted? Kiss me hardy.
Yeah.
Why is it misinterpreted?
I read somewhere that he might have said kismet.
It was kismet.
Yeah.
And it's as simple as that.
It's Turkish, isn't it? The Turkish word for fate, I believe.
Yeah, Frank. Yeah.
Because he was warned.
This is
to
it.
Go up with your medals on,
yeah.
And he did, and that's why he said kismet hardy.
Yeah.
Anyway, what we're doing, boys and girls, lovely Laura, because she's here, is that we're going over to David Johnson, and David Johnson. It's terrible. This is a lecturer. This is a professor over there in Colorado. And I said to him, I'm giving you some homework. I want you to read something called The Bisley Boy, because this is what we're going to talk about. and it's absolutely wonderful. And he's actually on with us till 10 o'clock.
Fab.
How's that? Because unfortunately, Joe Whittaker, Hollywood correspondent, has gone on a big yacht. What's that all about?
She's going to tell you about that next time. It's her homework.
Oh, it's not at home there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'll tell you what it is, Frank. She's probably gone on it with Trump.
No, Sir Philip Green.
So she's going to get a story for the next time.
Yes. No, she hasn't gone on with Philip Green. She might have gone on with Trump. And Ivana with a little... Did you see Ivana? This is absolutely ridiculous. They go down to Texas, Houston, and she's walking across like more or less a field that was green, and she's got a pair of high heels on, and it was just splashing. You know, what kind of person is she to come to a flooded area where there's devastation? People have no homes, and she's coming down.
Perhaps her advisors hadn't told her that she's going to actually get off the concrete.
I don't believe. I think she takes no notice of advisors. She dresses the way she dresses.
Frank, I can tell you, Laura would do the same thing. She would do exactly the same thing. She plays drums in high heels.
In the mud.
With some of them, there's no stopping them. It's like, you know, it's not good for your posture, you know.
There's high heels and there's high heels there, aren't there? You know, there's
yes.
sensible heel.
Well, I'm sorry there about...
You've got to go and watch the band.
Well,
that's
anyway,
what you've got to do.
Let's get over to wonderful David. He's been very patient. We're talking about high heels, Trump, Sir Philip Green, UFOs and everything else. And the unfortunate Texans who've lost their homes. Anyway, David, are you there?
I am, and I'll tell you, I've never worn high heels either.
David, you never lived.
You know, it's just, I don't know. Speaking of the Bisley Boy and all that, I've just never worn them. So, it's not my style.
I wonder if the Bisley Boy wore them, especially Elizabeth. So, listen, I asked you to read that. What did you think? What's your take on it?
Well, you know, okay, you were joking about giving me homework. I'm not going to get top marks tonight, Frank. I tried really, really hard to get through this book, and I just couldn't do it. I mean, the idea is good. It's just not. I don't think the book's very well written, and you can. I hope I'm not giving offence to Mr. Hunt or to you, but it's a hard read.
Why me? Why offence?
Well, I don't. You asked me to read it. You must.
I never wrote it.
But I'll admit my bias too. I've always had a bit of a trouble with anybody who wants to write first-person historical fiction like that. It just seems I have a hard time with it. But the idea, all right, let's talk about this idea. Since the rumor is you're absolutely convinced that Queen Elizabeth I had an Adam's apple. That's the rumor I've heard.
Yes.
I'm having a hard time with it, Frank. I really am.
No, that doesn't matter. You know, this is what it's all about. So, give us your. You're not just going to say, yes, she was a woman. Simple as that, are you?
Well, no. Well, I'm willing to. I mean, the whole point of academics is we have these conversations, right?
Right.
We have to talk about them. So, I am struggling a little bit with the whole idea of it. Just seems like deeply embedded in this is the idea of just some latent, or maybe not so latent, misogyny. And what do you say to that idea?
What do I say to what? Sorry.
The misogyny.
Oh, okay. I said that there seems to be an embedded bit of misogyny in this whole idea. Just, anti-womanness, if you will. Yeah. And I wondered what you would say to that. Because I think we're going to have to settle that.
Okay. Well, there's no anti-woman anything, to be honest. This is where we're coming from. I think Ed wants to come in there.
Yeah. Hi, David. Ed. Just to clarify for me what you just said, the misogyny thing. I interpreted what you said there as being perhaps that the author of this work was trying to say that it had to be a man because no woman could have achieved the things that she did. Is it more that what you mean when you say there's an element of misogyny somewhere in that?
And I think what I'm really, that Chris Hunt wrote this text, and it really, I mean, it's historical fiction. It's well researched, okay, but it's still fiction. So I went and found what.
In your opinion, it's fiction, there, David, because she wrote it. I don't know whether you're aware of this, but she wrote it as it was, not fiction. She wrote it as it was. She was stating fact, by the way. It's not fiction.
I need help. She.
Yes.
Which she?
Yeah.
It's Christine Hunt.
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
Well, there you go.
Interesting. Okay.
Right.
But
yeah,
here's what I did.
And she's an aristocrat, by the way. She's an aristocrat also. So, go on.
Oh, okay. I had no idea. I didn't actually look into the author that much. So again, I'm not getting top marks tonight, am I? I'm not going to pass my GSCEs here. So
don't worry, go on. We just like to do discussion. You say.
Go on, yeah.
But I went and found the famous Imposters that Bram Stoker wrote. That seems to be what some of this, at least, is based on. And so, yeah, I think what Ed was saying is that there seems to be a sense in Stoker's account, and perhaps in others, I don't know because I'm busy, that somehow this can't be a woman because she didn't want to get married and she was doing all these things that didn't seem womanly. And so I really need to know how to address that.
Okay, let me just come in there. Now, it's well-known fact that she has male characteristics. That is, she has male pattern baldness. She shaved every day. She was 6'1", which is she would have been a freak, in other words. She would have been a freak. She had no breasts. She was very hirsute. She spoke with a gruff voice. Now, just imagine shaving every single day. Very hirsute. She had a hairy chest. Every artist was told to make her look feminine. So whatever portrait you're seeing of Elizabeth I is false. You're actually looking at a false picture or a false representation of Elizabeth. So how would you just get out of that? It's like the UFO syndrome. Do you believe Buzz Aldrin when he said that he was followed by a bogey, not once but twice? Do you disbelieve it? Do you just debunk it? Or do you just debunk anyone, historians? I'll tell you another thing as well. When Margaret Thatcher was Prime Minister, they went up to a group of historians and they said, can we open a grave? Because a tomb's never ever been opened. It was sealed. No one had ever seen her. On her particular, in her will, it said, don't do an autopsy on me. That was done. Well, I think Robert Cecil done that myself, wrote that particular thing. So she was never opened up. She'd never ever seen a physician at any time during her life. During her life, she'd never seen a physician. She always wore a ruffle. She never showed any of her chest or anything. So these are the anomalies, to be honest, about this particular person.
Does this apply also to when she was a child? So
yeah.
So as a child being brought up as a girl.
Well, the thing is, Catherine Ashley and her husband were minding the child because Henry VIII didn't want to know, because he had this lad now, James, and he also had a daughter. Now, don't forget that she was illegitimate anyway. She could never, ever ascend to the throne. And the point is, when she couldn't ascend to the throne, she was brought to this Catherine Ashley, and she brought her up. She had a son the same age. The son fell into, the young girl, heavy dresses they wore then. It wasn't like today where you can put nice little summer dresses on or anything like that. And she actually fell into this pond. She fell into the pond and drowned. Now, Henry was going around, he was beheading everyone. He was paranoid, he was a psychotic. He became psychotic, And the next, they actually dressed up the child. And Henry, he used to come on a rare visit, but just wave from where he was sitting, and the little child used to, or the two children used to wave. So when he came, the child was dressed up as Elizabeth because they never said anything. Walter Grindale and Roger Ansham were two special agents of Walsingham, and they went down when she was age 9. No one knows how she was brought up, by the way, in that 9 years. And when they went down for to bring her back so that she could become queen, because the Reformation was very strong at the time, the whole of the country became paranoid through this Reformation. There was lots of backlash. There was lots of repercussions and everything else, whether you were a Catholic or a Reformer. It was absolutely a horrendous time at the time. And Catherine Ashley said, there's no way that if we say that she's okay, that she's dead, what will happen to us? So that's why they dressed the boy up in this particular dress, and that's how it goes from there. And it was imperative that she'd married, actually, David. It was imperative to keep the line going, because there was too many obstacles in the way, and one of them was Mary Queen of Scots, who was Catholic. There was too many barriers and everything else in the way. And don't forget, when James died, then Bloody Mary took over. Where did she get her name from? Where did she get the Bloody Mary from? Because her advisors, who were also staunch reformers, were saying, they're plotting against you, I'd have them sorted out. So she said, well, all right, she was signing death warrants left, right and centre for them to be executed by the block. Therefore, Bloody Mary. Ed's going to say something.
Well, I was going to, but I heard David trying to say something just then, so maybe I should defer to David for a moment while he says what he was going to say.
Well, I was thinking about it because, you recounting the story of the death, the alleged death, I'm going to use court terms here, of the young Elizabeth and needing to find a surrogate. And that's one of the things that bothers me, actually, because, I can accept on one level that the people who were charged with the care of Elizabeth, oh my gosh, this is going to be a horrific thing if we have to say that she died, and that's terrifying, okay? But at the same time, she's not. You've got Edward still alive. You do have Mary. Yes, I know she's a Catholic, and that would not make Henry VIII very happy. But she's not predestined at that point to be something great. But that aside, what worries me about that is, are these people so paranoid about reporting a death that they're willing to undertake fraud without having an exit plan? Because it seems to me, if Henry ever works out, oh my gosh, I've been deceived, that's worse than reporting she died.
Yeah, but he was already dead. He's gone. Henry had gone.
Oh, okay, that's where I'm confused. Yeah,
he was dead. He was gone. Right. No, the thing is, what the likes of Walsingham wanted to do, he wanted to carry on the line of protesters, hence the word Protestant. That's how that came about. So they were protesting against Rome, and he wanted them, the actual line to go on, simply because repercussions and lots of propaganda came out at the time, because they said any reformers now, if Rome take over, there'll be many executions, and so we've got to keep this going. And don't forget that the more lands you had, the more power you had. And when Henry decided to become head of the Church of England here, he gave the Catholic land to his cronies, who were the most powerful men at the time in the country. So they became more powerful. You see what I mean? So they needed that to keep going on, David.
Yeah, I do. But what I'm driving at is the initial switch was because Henry was coming to visit Elizabeth. He wasn't dead yet. So you have to have an exit plan to want to do this. You're not going to know he's going to die in 3 more years, and I can just fake it for 3 years. Yeah. So the whole premise is that Elizabeth died. Henry made a surprise visit to Elizabeth, and they had to find somebody. It seems to me the risk is very high there.
David, it's Ed. I kind of share some of your. I don't want to say skepticism, because I don't think you're being skeptical, but your open-mindedness on this whole issue. I kind of share that, because the story that that she was the boy rather than the young girl who grew up to be Queen Elizabeth I. I think that story is premised on one major thing, one major belief, that she died in a pond.
Yeah.
And I don't think we have any verified evidence that she died in a pond. We have the word of a writer who would claim to have testimony or research, historical research of papers, but mostly conjecture, speculation about the politics of the day, like the Walsingham thing, and so based on all of that circumstantial evidence, which is quite powerful when you put it together, but circumstantial evidence, speculation, political speculation, that if you then add to that the story that she drowned, then you start to get the bigger story, don't you? That okay, presume all that stuff, then the boy it becomes the Queen, and then you start to make up the rest of the cover story, if you like. And I'm skeptical a little bit about that element, because I think there's a lot of circumstantial stuff and a lot of creative stuff. I don't think there's enough there for me to say, okay, she was hirsute and all those things, she was tall. I don't think that any of those things on their own say that Elizabeth I wasn't actually the child, girl, grown up.
Okay, I'll come in there again and I'll do this. I mentioned about Thatcher when she was Prime Minister at the time, and in 1983 a deputation of historians went very much. These were top of the league historians, like yourself, David. Anyway, these historians went up and they said, "Can we open the coffin? Can we open a tomb? Not the coffin. Can we open the tomb?" She said, "No, it'll be just to disprove that she is a woman and not a man, as some suggest." Anyway, she said, "Oh no, it could be all nothing there, it could be dust or whatever." So anyway, they walked away. Then when DNA came out, so they got the idea, well, okay, dust, we can still take DNA or whatever. And then they went back in 1987 and they said, listen, DNA is a bit far advanced now, from 1984. It's done this 3 years, and can we open it? She said no. So what they decided then was to leave, not go back to her, but leave until there's a change of government, hopefully in the near future. Anyway, there was a change of government, and Tony Blair came in. And they went up to Tony Blair and they explained what had happened, this deputation. One of them, unfortunately, had died, by the way, since then. And they said, listen, we just want to open the coffin, the tomb, and, once and for all, just get DNA or whatever to prove or disprove that she was a man or a woman, whatever. And Blair turned around and he just said, just leave it. Just leave it. He said, because it'll cause lots of controversy and everything else. And this was more or less after post Diana death, right? So he said, just leave it. Let's call it a day. And that was it. So the two governments would not allow any historian or anybody else, for that matter, to open up the sarcophagus. The two.
So is this the implication that the conspiracy continues? That the British government is aware of knowledge and they are suppressing it? Is that where we're going with this?
Well, I don't know. You come to your own conclusion. I can come to my conclusion. And lots of other people can come to their own conclusion about this particular episode in history. And I think Ed wants to come in again.
I'm afraid it's me again, David.
Yeah.
I'm kind of looking at it from, I think, a corner close to where you are on this. I think is the British government implicated in some continued cover-up after 400 years, 500 years? I believe that the British government is implicated in lots of things. So, seriously, they're implicated in some seriously bad stuff. However, on this particular point, I can see why a government would say, "Come on, guys, what's going to happen here? You're going to open the sarcophagus. You're going to do some DNA tests, and either you find out that she was a woman, and in which case you will have wasted everyone's time, and it's all going to get out that this story is a complete pile of hogwash, or you're going to find that you think she was a man, in which case we're going to have to change all the history books and all that other stuff. What's the point? Let's just leave it. It's 400 or 500 years old. Let's leave it alone." So I can see the government in the UK in this particular case justifiably saying, "Get lost, guys. What for?" You know what I mean, David? I don't know whether that's your opinion too, but
yeah. Well, and I guess because there's persistent theories about conspiracies in the United States government as well. The Area 51 cover-up, whatever it is, and it seems like. Well, for one thing, if there really were any conspiracies, Donald Trump would have tweeted about them by now. But the other thing is just, I don't know. I mean, I guess it stretches my credibility. I want to ask Frank directly this question. Let us presuppose for a moment that somebody says, "Okay, yeah, open it up, get the DNA sample, let's run it." Would that test make a difference? Because if it's a woman, you're going to say,
what happens?
We've lost him.
No, we haven't. He'll come back on. Did we lose? Are you still there, David?
Sounds like we're struggling, doesn't it?
Hello, can we lost you for a moment there, David. Can you repeat what you were going to say if he opens up the tomb and finds out that she was a woman or a man?
Yeah, okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's fine. So
can you hear me?
Yeah, okay. We can hear you now.
Okay, so if they do open it and get some DNA data, would it be convincing? Because if the DNA says, okay, this was a woman, it's got 2 X chromosomes, then is somebody just going to say, well, they switched the body at the last minute, that this is not really Queen Elizabeth's body?
That's brilliant.
And if it's a man's thing.
That's absolutely brilliant, because... it could easily be, couldn't it? So the conspiracy would go on and on and on. You could never ever stop it. It's like there's more conspiracy comes out of America. This is our own conspiracy theory. We're absolutely delighted with it. Was Margaret Thatcher a man or mouse or whatever she was? It's that sort of scenario. This is our particular conspiracy theory, and it's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful, because you mentioned this Donald Trump. He'd tweet anything, him, this fella. Just imagine him being Prime Minister of England and saying, "Yep, she was a man, all right." So
and of course, we'd all believe that. Then,
and we'd all believe it. Not fake news, you see.
Yeah. Well, if Trump had said it's got to be true, hasn't it? Really?
Absolutely brilliant.
Make the Queen a man again. It's going to be a campaign slogan.
Make the Queen a man.
Yeah.
Well, we all love conspiracy theories, and I think it's true. Our American friends, that these conspiracy theories just sprout up. There are many conspiracy theories, even about the Titanic. One of the most greatest of all conspiracy theories that. It's beyond belief. It's more to do with, shall we say, it's more controversial than Elizabeth, in my opinion. The likes of the Titanic conspiracy theory. Have you ever heard about that conspiracy theory, David?
I don't know of a specific one. I mean, I've done quite a bit of reading about the Titanic. What conspiracy is this one? Was it
the Britannica, or the Britannic? I'm sorry. the ship that actually went down in the Atlantic 2 miles down or 2.5 miles down was not the Titanic but the Britannic, the sister ship.
How exciting.
Haven't you heard that?
I haven't heard that.
Well, I'm going to do you a favour, right?
Yeah?
In the next, I'll have to get hold of it. I'll know somebody who's got this. I'll get a copy for you, because I used to have copies. I did something for the BBC once, and they said, could you sell this? And they couldn't put it out. They couldn't put this documentary out, and they put in a hell of a lot of money, these lads, to do this documentary, and they couldn't put it out. They were warned by governments and everything else, especially the Americans and the British, and you're not putting that out. So anyway, I had a copy, and I sold them out to students and everything else. Brilliant. And Ian Trimble, one of the great friends of ours, as I have the DVD, so I'll get a copy. I'll get it off David. I'll get a copy, and I'll actually send you it over. It's amazing. I'll send you it over, and we'll talk about it in a couple of months. How about that?
That sounds like a great deal of fun. I mean, I love Titanic history. I think it's really interesting. It's fascinating.
Wait till you see this particular copy. It's documentary. I'm sorry. It's absolutely immense. It's immense, and you'll be quite surprised. And even Ed is looking at me. Lovely Laura. I love Laura looking at me. And Paul Kappa, he's looking at me in amazement, because I don't think they've seen it either. So
the amazed Kappa.
We should get together and have a film party. I'll bring popcorn.
Just imagine this. I'll just leave you with this, by the way. I've got to read something out in a moment or two. It's an awareness thing for a young boy, 5-year-old boy named Josh. But I'll just leave you with this. I still want you on, because this is only going to take a minute or two. Yeah. When you look at this particular DVD, this documentary, believe you me, it will open your eyes. It will, and it's opened my eyes. And I'm as sceptical as anybody, believe it or not. I am as skeptical as anybody. So that's what I'll leave you. Just bear with me, David. I've just got to read this particular thing out. It's a wonderful thing. It's about a 5-year-old boy named Josh, and it's so sad. It really is so sad, and it's about. He suffers from a terrible, terrible, debilitating disease. What I'm going to do now, rather than me talk about this 5-year-old boy, I'm going to ask Ian. I know he's listening in. I'm going to ask Ian if his son, if the boy's dad, Josh's dad, will come on the show next week and talk about it. Simply because. He told me how to pronounce this word, and I can't pronounce the word, unfortunately. I just cannot. Can you pronounce it still? Because I forgot to bring it out with me. He said, this is how to pronounce it.
This is the disease. This
is the disease, and it's just awareness of this particular disease, and this young boy, Josh, 5 years of age, has got it. And I believe, according to Ian Trimble, he's got it's terrible, very emotional. He said he's got this infectious smile, when you see him, and it just blows you away, and this little boy, 5 years of age, and he's such a happy little boy. So I'll be talking to Ian right after the show, and we'll get Josh's son on next week. How's that, boys and girls?
Sounds okay.
It's a terrible word to pronounce. I can't even spell it. It's not even here. I can't find it. I can't find a word. I can't find unless Ian just text me it through, and our wonderful Cambridge educated university friends might be able to read, because I couldn't read it last week, and neither could Jason, and Jason is more cleverer than me anyway. So one of these, this is brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So listen, Ian, if you're listening in, will you just text me that word, please? Thank you, and see if Josh's dad will come on next week, and we'll talk about it in depth. So, David, what do you think of? He's going to call. He's going to call in. Ian, can't. I'm sorry, I can't. Ian, you can't call in, unfortunately, because we're Skyping all the way over there in Colorado to our wonderful historian David Johnson. And so listen, the conspiracy theory of the Titanic. Would you look forward to that?
Oh, absolutely. As I say, and it's funny. I was just in June. I went to the Titanic experience over in Belfast, and that was.
Why didn't you come to Liverpool? Why didn't you come to Liverpool?
I couldn't get away. I had students with me. I couldn't break away.
Oh, that's disgusting.
I offended you.
Oh, what a man you are. There's us all waiting here. You could have gone to see Kappa in the cavern, because he's a regular there, and Laura playing the drums. You could have seen me. I was a tuck in around and gave you the American connection with Liverpool.
And I would have totally done that because I wasn't that impressed with the thing in Belfast, okay?
Oh, okay.
But I had students with me, and they get cross when I run away.
I'll tell you what this thing's called. And Ian's just sent it in. Thank you, Ian. Hang on now. He's just sent it in. And it's called, you might have heard this, I just don't know. It's polymicrogyra. Polymicrogyra. Have you ever heard of that? But that's in layman's terms, you see. Polymicrogyra. So
yeah, I've not heard of it.
No, neither have I. And this is what Ian and Josh's dad wants to make people aware of, because it's awareness. It's not like a charity or anything like that. It's polymicrogyra, but it's absolutely unbelievable. Now listen, do you know for next month? Do you know what you're doing next month?
You're about to tell me?
Yes. Now I mentioned it to you the last month. Or the month before, and what we're actually going to do is the 1605 gunpowder plot.
Oh, how exciting. Brilliant. Okay.
And
I'll wear my mask.
Do you know what? I wrote a poem about masks. Which is, keeping their identity away and everything else, and it's absolutely fascinating. But listen, so you fancy doing the 1605 gunpowder plot?
I think that would be great fun, especially since I know you know a lot about it. It's going to be that'll be a good one. That'll be a good one. And what interests me too, I mean, just kind of a parting thought, is how much the internet kind of piracy / advocacy group Anonymous has adopted that identity too. I mean, the connection's really kind of curious to me, that protecting your identity bit. So. Well, that'll be a great one.
The thing is, you see, there's been many scapegoats, hasn't there, throughout the centuries. No matter how you look, there's been scapegoats. And the biggest scapegoat of the 17th century was none other than Guy Fawkes. Guy Fawkes was the biggest scapegoat any time. And you're very lucky here. Because one of my students, Alan Hodgson, said, "Shall I bring me Titanic filming, to DVD?" And I just said, "Yes." And he'll bring it in on Friday to me, and I'll get it copied next week. So, and I'll send you it right over next week. How's that?
Is that the one with Kate Winslet?
This fella, is this the one with Kate Winslet? And this is Paul Kappa. This is the big rock and roller, and he keeps coming out with all these little mad things. But this is great, absolutely brilliant. So listen, David, would you you'd be willing, won't you, to have a look at this particular DVD, and we'll discuss it next month. The Titanic. How's that?
Do you want to do? I'm confused now. You said Guy
No,
Fawkes.
I'm sorry. The month after you watch it, and next month we'll be discussing the 1605 Gunpowder Plot, and the following month we'll discuss the Titanic.
All right, I can't wait. Sounds exciting.
I'll tell you what as well, David, just before we leave. Your students, these particular conspiracy theories leading up like towards Christmas. Why don't you have a discussion with them if you've got the time, just a tutorial, and just discuss these particular topics? How about that?
Well, that'll be good. I'm doing a class right now that's the first part of the Western Civ survey, so it'll actually fit right in.
Wow, that's great. Absolutely wonderful. David, it's been absolutely wonderful. Thank you for your input and everything else. And tonight about Elizabeth I. Is that okay? And we'll look forward to next month and the 1605 Gunpowder Plot. I'll definitely you'll have to send me your personal address so I could send you this over as well. Is that okay?
Yeah, I will send it to you.
Excellent stuff. Thank you so much, David, Paul, Laura, and Ed wants to say thank you.
Thanks very much, David. I just had a final thought on the Beasley Boy that I wanted to bring up, which was about it was a missed opportunity for the great English institution, the Carry On films. That would have been a fantastic Carry On film, Carry On Virgin, with Bernard Bresslaw as the Virgin Queen, with Sid James as Sir Walter Raleigh, and Kenneth Williams as Walsingham. Somebody saying, "I don't fancy yours much."
Brilliant. Okay.
Thanks a lot, David. Thanks you, and I'll be speaking to you next month.
Thanks, Dave.
Bye bye.
Yes. Goodbye.
Cheers, David.
Right, so that's the show tonight, people. It's a big thank you to Paul Kappa, who actually come out with that particular thing about Carry On Virgin, and the lovely Laura. And I thought she was going to say something there.
I know, I thought I was as well, but I wasn't. I was just going to say ta-ra. Thanks.
And Ed, thank you.
Thank you. Been enjoyable.
Absolutely.
I'm overwhelmed now.
I'm glad.
Are you offended, though?
Can I finish on the show here? You know, every time they're on, they always carry on. And I've got to end the show anyway.
Carry on, Frank.
Carry on, Frank, yeah. With Bernard Bresslaw as me, yeah, okay. Charles Autry as me. Anyway, it's me, Frank Carlyle, for Mersey Radio. Without Jason Pennington, our wonderful producer, there'd be no show. So it's all it leaves me to say is thank you so much. Next week we have Andy Gamble and Jamie Summers on, and we'll be talking lots of things music. So next week, until then, God's willing, see you all. Bye bye.